In this unit, we are going to introduce the successful action of educative participation of the community. As you will find in the materials provided, research has provided strong evidence about the benefits of family and community participation in the educational process, but not any type of participation will have the same impact on students' learning. That is why we will focus on educative participation of the community. When we talk about this participation, we start from the premise that everyone wishing to improve the children's education can participate in the school, no matter your background or origin. Particular attention must be paid to incorporating the voice of families who traditionally have not participated in such areas of school life before, including those from minority groups or those with no formal education. And here you might find the further resistances to make this happen. For that purpose, I will summarize some of these barriers that might affect vulnerable communities that you have in your school. Let's think about the case of the Roma, the largest minority in Europe, who has been systematically discriminated for centuries. Other certain groups are commonly subject to negative stereotyping, prejudice, and resulting anxiety in all areas of society, including the educational system. The Roma has experienced persecution, such as the Porrajmos, the Holocaust, and the forced sterilization, as well as inequalities in lawmaking since the 15th century and until very recently in some countries. The Muslim community is another of the most rejected and vulnerable groups subject to racist aggressions throughout Europe, and this list can go on. According to some, mixing of cultures inevitably leads to the conflict and aggression. However, the root problem does not lie in contact between cultures, or indeed in their differences, but in which is the approach to coexistence which inadvertently support negative attitudes towards difference. Two particular signs of racism in society and day-to-day life in educational centers are outlined below. The first approach is the ethnocentric perspective that parts from the idea that there are superior and inferior cultures, and the problem of the systematic dropout and school failure of minority cultures is precisely because of their culture. Therefore, the solution is to assimilate, to eliminate them, to assimilate and to force them to give up their own identity and their culture, as this would be the root of the problem of the school failure. On the other hand, the postmodern perspective is the most closely related to the relativist perspective, is the one that instead of promoting this idea of superiority or inferiority, it defends and it maintains that the cultural differences need to be maintained, but hiding behind this defense of the cultural diversity, inequalities, systematic inequalities. In a sense, from this perspective, discrimination is justified through the cultural differences, and therefore you need to segregate this diversity. So it also leads to social and educational exclusion. In the meantime, in the best universities in the world, consider diversity as a key factor in their excellence. Why should diversity in education centers be regarded as a problem? The perspective of the learning communities overcomes both modern and postmodern racism, and it stands up for the equality of differences, the coexistence between cultures and school success for everyone. From this equality of differences, all children learn that everybody has something valuable to contribute, and that the school and its world belongs to every culture, and that dialogue and understanding are possible. So the idea is how to make all the institutional and organizational arrangements to make sure that all students, no matter the diverse background in culture, ethnicity, religion, age, ability, have access to the same quality education. The educative participation of the community is one strategy to achieve this equality of differences. We often hear that the success of students depends on the formal education level of their parents. Students of academic families whose parents do not have a university degree are presented to be more likely themselves to go to the university and achieve high academic grades. They are less likely to give up. Okay, m'he equivocat. Vinga, talla-ho. So, the education participation of the community is one of the key strategies to achieve this equality of differences. We often hear that the success of students depends on the formal educational level of their parents. Students of academic families, those parents who have a university degree, are more likely themselves to go to the university and achieve high academic grades. They are less likely to give up or to drop out from school. However, such apparent statistical correlations between parents' educational background and their children's academic results do not establish any kind of causality, neither are they decisive. If, however, schools support equality rather than inequality, generations will overcome traditional educational levels, so those who face most challenges ultimately have equal access to university. It is now known that the relationship between parents' degrees and their children's educational achievements can be altered, and that every parent, regardless of the educational level they may have, can aspire to their children attending the best colleges in the world. Research has shown that what affects the learning of children more than their family's educational level are the kind of activities and training in which they take part. So, the educative participation of the community responds to this by engaging family and community members in children's education, but with an emphasis to boost instrumental learning, such as reading, mathematics, or science. In doing so, these families get involved in the core areas of the learning aspects of their children. To ensure the educational success of all students, families and members of the community are encouraged to get involved directly in the process and school learning spaces, including the classroom. In this regard, research has demonstrated that the participation in a school of vulnerable families is fostered by a strong collaboration constructed with egalitarian dialogue, trust and confidence-based relationships among school staff and themselves, and having a shared purpose of ensuring high-quality education for all children. Family and community also have a voice in decision-making processes. This is fundamentally materialized in several strategies. First, a direct participation in the interactive groups, as described in Unit 3, or the dialogic literary gatherings, as presented in Unit 4, as well as in other forms of extended learning time, especially in tutored libraries, and by encouraging more dialogic reading and writing time and more spaces. Second, with the participation in the management and in the organization of the school through mixed commissions. In a learning community, the school governance is developed by a management commission and various mixed commissions. The management commission comprises the management team and the representatives of each of the mixed working commissions. These commissions, made up by teachers, relatives, volunteers, and students, are responsible for carrying out the transformations decided on by a school in the dream phase, as you've seen in Unit 2. Approved by the school council, the commissions have autonomy to plan, make proposals, and assess all the priorities that have been decided on by consensus. Some examples of mixed commissions are the learning, library, training, volunteering, coexistence, infrastructure. Each school decides what commissions do it need, and grounded on the needs and priorities that all community members identify, the school, along with the families and students, set up the commissions that will address all these issues. Then, each commission organizes its meeting according to the availability of the members. It is understood that everyone has a very tight agenda, so every meeting will start and end at the set time. Also, there will have always priority those members of the Commission that has spoken less. These little details make everyone feel comfortable because highlights the sensitiveness with each person and their duties. Finally, in the unit, you will find other examples and ideas that will help you to implement these actions and some more practical guidelines to engage volunteers in these actions. Indeed, volunteering in successful educational actions mobilizes everyone who want to make a difference in children's life. Let's make it happen.